Hello and welcome to the 3T RPG podcast. My name is Harrison Blunt and with me is Nick Lamley.
Spain.
And of course we've got the man himself, James Clark.
Sup?
This is an RPG podcast all about tabletop RPGs, but before we begin, I'd like to thank the members of our dank army who pledge on Patreon and at the Dreadlord and Devil King levels. That's Ace B, Jason Duncan, Julian Burnick, Ryan Wahab. And I made it sound as if that list went on, but it doesn't. That's where it ends. But today we've got some.
That was the last one.
We've got some good segments for you today. We've got Feeding the Back. We've got RPG news. We've got What You Saying, where we talk about what we've been playing, followed by the main subject, which is Does MÖRK BORG live up to the hype? Ooh. And then we're going to take some your questions in the Electro Letters segment.
Segment.
Oh, yes. Segment.
I put a bit of French in there. I'm trying to class up the show today, guys, because the thing is, I'm fully aware that people aren't taking us seriously out there, and we need to class it up, all right?
Class it up. So, a sprinkling of class.
So let's get into the, as the French say, le feedback. Feedback. It's feedback.
Le feedback.
The feedback side. The feedback side. Yes, bitch. The feedback side. Feedback, bitch. It's the feedback section. Yeah, we take your comments and read them out. Yeah, feedback, bitch. So the first one comes in from Ace B. He says, "Hey guys, thank you for keeping the podcast during lockdown." I think he means keeping it going. Then he says, "Varus podcasts," I think he means various podcasts, "are the only thing keeping me entertained at the moment. Keep doing what you do."
Varus podcasts are pretty decent. I've been listening to a few myself.
It sounds French again. Varus podcast.
Yes.
Maybe Ace is French. Damn it, we should have him on the show to sort of class up the joint.
Hello and welcome to the 3T RPG podcast.
That's actually not bad.
Le repege.
Oh, mate. Well, I'm not going to attempt a French accent.
Right. Enough, because the French are going to get annoyed, and you know how many French listeners we have.
Oh, it's true.
And by the way, Pierre, thanks for listening. Right, so he also says, "Does that new logo get a mention in this episode? Dank." Yeah, I wanted to shout out Jack Carlisle Design, and that is my brother-in-law who did our new logo. And but it's funny because when it comes to podcasts, I feel like fans of podcasts, they're either like they either don't mind a bit of change or they're really against it. About 50% of people didn't like the new logo. About 50% of people thought it was fucking awesome because it's our 3T hand gesture.
Yeah.
In a sort of mock Run the Jewels style. But more importantly, to those who didn't like it, we like it, so it's staying. All right?
I didn't know people didn't like it.
Nonetheless, though, we did get some really nice comments on it, and I think it's fucking awesome, and it's quite badass. And, you know, we do talk about some
I love it.
Pretty stupid stuff on the show, and so some zombie hands seemed appropriate.
Pretty fitting. Yeah.
Exactly. And additionally, after Nerds International went under, we kind of just wanted to have another little update.
Yeah.
Facelift.
Little class up. I mean, refresh.
Exactly. Yeah. Refresh, something standalone.
All right, so Richard Woolcock, last episode we mentioned, we were talking about what's the worst food to have at a gaming table. And Richard Woolcock, he says, "On the subject of dodgy food at the gaming table, in a group I used to play with, one of the players would often turn up to the game with a huge doner kebab."
What?
As delicious as they are, that is not acceptable table food, is it? I haven't had a doner kebab since I was about 13, so that'd be like 17 years.
Oh
mate, you haven't lived.
But the doners, as good as they are, they do fucking reek.
Yeah, and they do play havoc on your guts.
Yeah, and they're very messy, aren't they? Because, you know, if you get all the sauces like I did, then sort of you eat it, even if you're sober eating it, it'll just sort of be in your face beard.
There's a reason that you eat it mainly while you're drunk and also outside walking home, right? That's why you see on a Friday or a Saturday night in England, you see so many like prematurely discarded doners all over the floor, like littering the town centre.
The saddest ones are like the ones when that people have just dropped it as they go because they're being messy. That's fine, but you know when someone's clearly just accidentally spilt it and it's all just like all over the floor, and you can just picture.
Yeah, when you see a full one, like a full one, but like most of it's like down a wall and the pit of bread's still intact.
Yeah, and you just think, oh, this bloke clearly tripped. And he's devastated now.
He's stumbling home. Fucking hell. Yeah, I haven't had a doner kebab in a long time. I might go out and have one. I was thinking the people from other nationalities must be so annoyed about how we say doner because it's like completely wrong. I think it's like doner. But we all say doner.
Doner.
Give me a doner, mate.
Doner kebab.
Right. Speaking of doner, mate, dynamite, let's get on to the news.
Oh, God.
That was
a nice segue.
News punch. Critical Role reveals new line of Funko Pop toys.
What?
If it hasn't dawned on you yet, this is a slow news week. All right. And I don't know. I just thought it'd be interesting.
Is it more of a news caress rather than a punch?
That's what it is. Yeah, it's a news tickle.
Yeah. Hey. There we go.
We should have two separate jingles for this.
Varied levels.
Basically, I was scouring the internet, and that's the biggest news that happened around this episode. You know, that Critical Role are doing their new line of Funko Pop toys. I would like to say this: Funko Pops are a huge waste of money.
What the fuck is a Funko
anybody
Pop
that
toy?
collects them,
what is
you
it?
suck.
What are they?
Those little square shits.
Little square.
Yeah, it's a little square shit. So it's like a little body with an oversized head, and it's of your favourite characters from your favourite things. But what it is it's genius because what they've done is they've made one toy that they can paint 1,000 different ways, and people don't seem to realise that that's what it is and how cheaply made and terrible these things are. And I don't know, it's just weird. It's really weird. It's one of the weirdest things. It's like getting... I can't remember what the name of the film was, but there was an old George Lucas movie where people bought cubes just to get the sensation of spending money. It's like that.
What, Star Wars?
No, it wasn't Star Wars. It was before that. It was, I can't remember what the hell it's called, but it's pretty funny. So, yeah, I just feel like the Funko Pops are like those coloured cubes from the George Lucas movie, whatever the fuck it was called.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's rubbish. So, tell me, are these toys of the characters they play or themselves?
Nick, don't expect me to do research, okay? I gave you the headline. That's all that matters.
What I want to know is there a giant-headed Matt Mercer that you can buy?
No, yeah, what we should do is get one of those. And no, I'm not going to say that. That's immature. But well, yeah, I'm fairly certain it's the characters. But I don't know. I didn't read the article. It didn't interest me, to be fair. So it's probably stupid that I even put it in here.
No, I'm glad it's been raised for discussion. Glad
it's out there and that we know and we can deal with it when the time comes.
The next one pleases me.
The next story is going to be that The Guardian reviews MÖRK BORG. So this is one of the top papers in the UK, newspapers. They reviewed MÖRK BORG, and it's actually a really, really good article, and it kind of gets across the game in a way that normies can enjoy it, which is fucking awesome. But I just think it's amazing that a giant news corporation like that has taken to reviewing an RPG. I mean, we're finally legit.
Yeah, that's I think that's like history worthy, isn't it? This is the good news section now.
Well, I guess like looking at both of those news headlines, one for worse, one for better, it's showing that the hobby's getting a bit more mainstream, isn't it?
I suppose so, yeah, because that can never be a bad thing. You know, it's that, as I always say, there's so many people that slate D&D and say, I wish somebody would start with my role-playing game, but it's just good getting more people into the hobby, you know, and also it's fucking cool that such a fun and decent RPG has got reviewed. But we shouldn't say too much about it because the main subject is about that game.
I wonder what the Guardian readership thought of that.
Oh my!
Borg, bloody spiffing.
What's a RPG?
What's a Borg and what's an RPG? Tilda, get my pipe. I have some pondering to do.
Borg, you say?
All right, awesome. Let's get on to what you slaying. And have one of these. Oi, yeah. What you slaying? So this is where we talk about what we've been playing. All right. Let's talk about our old school essentials, old school D&D Fandolin game. So I've been putting little updates for Nick because he's been unable to make the game during the pandemic. So I've been putting little updates on our group, but this is where I'm going to now fill Nick and the listeners in on what's going on in our old school essential game. So, you know, the first arc of this campaign that we did quite a few months back, was all about the guys owning a monster zoo and populating it with monsters. And they also saved the world at one point from a disease and all this stuff. So they're heroes. They're well-known people. And now the world is going to shit because it advanced into an industrial age. And they started mining the life stream from the planet and taking the planet's energy and using it to power devices. And now the planet is angry and it's fighting back. And all of these... all plants in the world, plus a few new ones crawling from beneath the world, have started attacking the world, like house plants, things like this. Nice. Nobody's safe. Grass, you're fucked.
Yep.
In addition to that, some of the devices are actually attacking, are actually fighting back and things like this. And God. You know, the team have been tasked with kind of saving everything. And to cut a long story very short, what they kind of did was they thought they would overload one of these things. They're called mana frackers that were taking the planet's energy. They thought they'd overload it and blow it up so that to show the planet that they give a shit. And when they did so, unfortunately, what they did is they overloaded it and it blew up. Sure, it did. But it's in the middle of a city, and every device linked to it on the network also blew up, causing devastation in every major city in the whole...
We had no idea that was going to happen. We thought it was a good idea to pulse the energy back into the Earth where it came from. Mm-hmm. No. We acted before we thought.
As we mentioned as well, you know, these guys, they own a zoo and actually own an entire town, the town of Phandalin, which is now becoming a city. And their town was the only one that didn't have a mana fracker yet. It was midway through being built. And as a result, now they returned home, and there's a bunch of refugees wanting to live in their town because it's the only one that's safe at the moment. So they got to work building new housing for them. But then they set out to find one of the gods who gave them a vision saying, well, you really fucked that one up. You better come and see me and bloody fast. I gave them a vision. So, last game they were travelling through this forest, and it was kind of this living forest that wants to test you and show... It kind of wants to test your abilities before it reveals the god to you.
Cool.
And they found out that a cult that one of the previous characters had started is also racing to see the gods, because they have to unite these 3 items that are owned by each of the gods to try and get enough power to save the Earth. And it turns out, this evil cult are after it as well, and they're both racing to get to it. So, pretty fucking fun.
Pretty epic,
And the forest bit was pretty funny because there was this point where there was this unicorn who was like a trickster. I kind of had the forest laid out just as boxes, and as the party would get lost and we'd use the wilderness rules, they would end up on different boxes and finally get to the end at some point, like a flowchart.
Excellent, nice.
And what was pretty funny, Nick, was that they went to this area with a unicorn in it, and it had a pond, and the unicorn didn't say anything. It just sort of motioned its head towards the pond as if to say drink. But the
actually, do you remember? She did that because I've got animal husbandry. I tried to sort of gesture towards the unicorn as to pay it respect, because obviously Stanley, my husband's got a unicorn as his steed, and so I was just gesturing as respect because the pool looked glistening and beautiful and magical. And then he said that I heard in my head as a positive wording of it. It was drink bitch.
It's like when girls call each other bitch, but they mean it like girlfriend or whatever. So it was like it went drink bitch, and James's character is a woman. I should point that out.
Nice.
Yeah. And so a few of us drank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. First thing that happens. James, he says his character Dee Dee, she drinks from the water, and she immediately stopped caring about anything for D6 hours. So we had 2 hours where she just couldn't find the muster to give a shit about anything. So she just at that point was just like, "Hey Stanley, you wanna have sex?" Rather than concentrating on the mission, she's like, "Oh, I remember when we were teenagers and we were in the woods, Anyway, here's the funny thing is that Stanley then drank some. He's getting ready for the event, for the sexy times.
Oh yeah.
And he drank some, and then his feet grew incredibly long, bursting through his shoes, and now he's got clown feet, and that's permanent.
my god.
And then at this point, the unicorn just goes, "See you later, bitch," and then just trots up into the air and goes away.
Oh dear.
It was pretty good, and one of the best sort of innovations that came out throughout this. I mean, there was loads and loads of different scenes as they went through the forest, but one of the best things was that this is a cool thing about OSE, man. Like, level 5 knights get a flying mount. And so James
cool.
rides around on a pterodactyl, and one of the other characters, he rides around on a flying unicorn. Once they got to the forest, their mounts were like super scared and kind of didn't want to go in, so they were being led, on the ground instead.
Cool.
And James realised that his pterodactyl would scream whenever it was near danger, so he would point it in the direction where he thought that it was most scared, using it as like sort of a compass, and then they followed that to kind of get to the end.
Pterodactyl compass, yeah.
Turn it around and sort of like
like a divining rod.
It was really fun.
Like a divining rod when he's trying to find water. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, final thing is they had a showdown with some cultists at the bottom of this mountain. Ended up climbing the mountain. And met one of the gods, this land god called Grome, and he's basically a dragon so big that when he's asleep is like a little forest is on his back.
Oh, very good, very good. Yeah,
yeah,
very
he
nice.
he kind of got up and told the party that the item is kept in a dungeon which is in the mountain. It's kept behind a number of trials and tests and things like this. And yeah, if they reunite them reunite the gods together and the 3 items, because there's 3 gods on this planet basically.
Cool.
And then they'll hopefully be able to save the world. But the dragon also has never been in the dungeon, so he doesn't know what's in there. He's just supposed to guard it, not actually do it. So yeah, they're sort of
cool.
But it was pretty decent. It was pretty fucking fun, and all told, it was pretty good. It was a bit weird having a sex scene involving my brother and my best friend. I mean, that was horrible.
We tried to keep them to a minimal, but they keep cropping up, don't they?
And the funny thing is about the cultists is that for the listeners, if they remember. Like any of the other characters, like the Fiend,
cool.
He created a
cult.
Fiend. They were his cult.
Oh, so they've actually turned into a formidable force now, because let's be honest, they were pretty new in the last session. Last
bear in mind, Nick, it's been 5 years, since the last arc, and they're getting there. Right. Even previously when the city had gone to shit and it was all rioting and stuff like this after the Mana shit went south.
Yeah.
They were talking to the police, and the police were saying that they've been investigating, a number of murders and sacrifices and things like this that have been going on up and down the country. But the thing is, this cult, they never settled down and use a base. They did once in Vandalin. As soon as the police came close, they left. So at the moment, they're still on the loose, and they are becoming formidable, even to the point where one of them was trying to snipe these guys with a rifle while they're in the forest.
Shit.
And Grant Shaftesbury, who's a barbarian, he's got all these woodland skills where he can move silently and hide in bushes, and he just snuck right up on him and then just axed him right in the back, and these guys then just came in and fucked him up like something fierce. And it was fucking awesome. But then they see him again by the base of the mountain. He's like looking a bit decrepit, like he's been sort of like corrupted, but he's back again, revived. So something's going on, and they definitely are more powerful.
Mate, that is so cool. I love that Norman's legacy lives on in the game. You've got his son. You've got his dark legacy of his cult. I bet James is loving it.
It kind of made sense to me, because all of your guys' characters, you planted all of these seeds.
That's it.
And had things going on. Like you've got your old character's beer is a big export of the town. You've got all of the other guys with who now rule the town. Stanley's now a knight. Everyone's got these things that are going on. Mm-hmm. And the very last thing Norman did was try to set up a cult, and he had relations with a hag. So I feel like it's one of those things where I had to keep that going. So he's now playing his own son.
You reap what you sow in RPGs, and that's the beauty of it. So that's I love that you've brought it all over to the new campaign.
I think that's what's making it particularly fun. I'm enjoying the hell out of it, and I hope the guys are too. But it's good fun.
Oh yeah, it is mad good.
And so far I fucking love the system. Sean, it was funny. I was talking to, he's one of our players, and I was talking to him, and he's like, feels a lot like D&D, and I'm like, that's what it is.
Because it is D&D.
I think I've said this before. Yeah.
How are the guys finding the mechanics and stuff? All good?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I do really enjoy the roll under thing because you have to roll under your stats instead of rolling the D20 modified, And I like it a lot because it actually means that every point that you have in a skill counts for something.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like in D&D where it would be like 12 to 13, it means you got a +1, where a 12 or a 13, that's a difference, Whereas before it's like you need to get 3 more points in strength to get an extra +1. Well, now every point is a +1,
There you go, yeah, exactly. I like it.
So it's good. But that's about it. I mean, I've also been playing a Saturday game, Old School Essentials with Jeff Goad, but unfortunately I had to leave that game, but I won't bring up why. But anyway, point is that, that's been pretty fun. I'll tell you what, it's annoying because I did finally have a character that actually survived in that game. He's a very harsh but fair GM because we make our own plans. It means that, we can go anywhere we like. So you're stumbling into places that weren't necessarily made for characters of your level. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Perfect.
But now I'm playing a flying lion that can go invisible whenever he wants. It's much easier. And so, pro tip, if you want to survive, get invisibility and be able to fly. I don't know.
Flying lion ship. Yeah, fair enough.
Flying shit. Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty awesome, and we've been setting up our own goals and stuff, and it's fucking really, really fun. But unfortunately I had to leave, but it's fine, whatever. Man. I mean, the thing is that what was kind of cool about that game, and I think this is can be inspiration for other people listening, is that he got as many whacked out and weird third party classes as he could and just put them into the game, which is why we end up with one of our characters is a vampire, one's a demon, one's a fucking flying lion that can go invisible. So it was pretty awesome. I don't know as a GM if I could handle that many different abilities and crazy shit, but I think it's cool that he was able to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, glad you enjoyed yourself, mate.
Yeah, it was good fun. Right, but should we talk about MÖRK BORG?
Oh, mate, maybe. I've heard a little thing about this.
One day, all will blacken and burn, just as the two-headed basilisks have predicted. The world is dying. Time is short. How will you face these last days? Robbing graves for soil-stained wealth, or facing down the apocalypse, hoping it can be fought? This is the synopsis of MÖRK BORG, which I think actually might be pronounced MÖRK BORG, but I don't know. We're just going to call it MÖRK BORG. It's like the German umlaut thing, isn't it? It's like
Yeah, it's got the accent over the O.
Anyway, this game describes itself as a doom metal album of a game and a spiked flail to the face, which is just fucking... And it also describes itself as rules light, heavy everything else, which is just so badass.
Yeah, that is good.
And after winning every ENnie award imaginable and being talked about in the biggest newspaper in the UK, it seems that MÖRK BORG is quickly becoming huger than Jesus, paving the way for a new breed of so-called art punk RPGs. But is all the media and industry attention justified? Does this game deserve to be the talk of every gaming table in the world right now? Well, today we're going to find out by taking a deep dive into the world of MÖRK BORG.
MÖRK BORG.
That might be racist what we're doing right now, so if it is, sorry. Okay, of course, the book is really big on presentation, and that's the first thing anyone will notice. It's an absolute masterpiece of graphic design and RPG artwork.
It is sexy, isn't it?
It's good, man.
It really is. It's so, it's just beautiful.
We will talk about, some of the actual things it does, but the... you guys had a look at the PDF version, and then Nick, you've ordered actually a physical version.
Oh yeah.
And the PDF is beautiful, but in the physical version, it's just insane. Like for example, right, you have an entire page dedicated to the fact that using a femur as a weapon does D4 damage with a picture of a bone behind it. And it's all done in this really punky doom black metal style,
Yeah.
And there's a
it's awesome.
And there's a page with all the weapon damages listed, but instead of a list, it's a picture of a guy with every weapon embedded somewhere in his body.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the one that points to the hand that hasn't got anything on it, and it says unarmed damage, and it's D2 or something like that.
It's so cool, man. Yeah, and each Each creature in the book also has its own full page, sometimes 2-page like spread artwork, all done in this like darker than black style, beautifully rendered.
Yeah.
And it's creepy and unsettling.
They're so cool.
It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. It's just crazy. It's one of those ones like I just can't stop looking at it. It's just amazing. And some of the pages.
Yeah, I like the fact that.
Sorry.
Yeah. The artwork, like, you know, some of it is there's a lot of artwork that's really similar throughout, obviously, but then there's sort of sections where it's just like it's completely different. Like there's like different sections in the book where it's like serene, a bit more beautiful, a bit more sort of painting on canvas style in the background. Yeah. But I think that's a really good idea to separate out the sections.
Yeah, you're right. It's almost like that each section has its own kind of graphical style, but all of it has this like kind of somewhat patchwork, but it has this kind of like really spontaneous feel to it, like it's been stitched together and like, you know, and the thing is, the PDF is amazing, right? But there some pages in the book, you know, contain embossed like foil lettering, and it's like, fuck me, how much money did this take to make? Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's the page for combat, right, is just called Violence. And the inside covers are also full of useful tools, and even the bookmark ribbon has text on it. And opening it at any page, you see something that could literally be a poster in like a niche, dingy record store. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah,
that's true.
But simply put, it's an absolute marvel in terms of layout and design. But what actually is the game? And does this all or nothing design style bleed into the game mechanics and game world? Well, shut up, because I'm going to tell you. See, I'm trying to be more like MÖRK BORG in this episode. I'm trying to sort of like treat the listeners with contempt and like I hate them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's going to work wonders.
All right, now listen, you bad idiots. Opening the book up at the first page, there's a credits section, obviously, but it contains a number of bands who inspired the book. A few of which I'm actually a big fan of, such as Null, Electric Wizard, and Mayhem. But I found some of the band names really amusing. Bong Ripper, for example.
It's made me laugh.
Bongzilla. Or how about Mammoth Weed Wizard Bastard?
There's a bit of a pattern here.
Well, here's the thing. It's like inspired by doom metal, right? And one of the biggest subgenres of doom metal is stoner doom, and that's what that is, I guess.
Yes.
I tell you what, though. I did actually listen to some of these bands while writing this review, and the one that really stood out to me was Bong Ripper. It's really fucking good.
Is that the one you shared on the group?
Yeah, with the horrible artwork.
Yeah. It's really good.
It's wicked, man. It's just like really heavy, like fucking droning, like metal without any vocals. It's a properly good background music, and it's really good for when you're reading this, obviously.
Yeah.
But anyway, similarly to the game's world map, right, MÖRK BORG often talks in like abstractions rather than outright statements, or is kind of vague about things and kind of lets you fill in the gaps. So let's take a look at the intro, for example. The first paragraph says, "The wind from the west, from the sundered land, rot rides it and the stench of blood. Cursed walker, will you travel there to the valley of the unfortunate dead? Our young ones are taken by the child thief Turgol, known for his crimes and alchemy of the flesh." Which is like super badass. And the whole book is written like this. It also talks about your character like it hates them. And it's like, who will you be? Nobody cares, and you'll be dead in a minute anyway. And also your stocks have crashed and I burned your house down.
Nice.
Yeah. Pretty cool. But yeah.
It's so incredibly dark, isn't it?
So, yeah, exactly. And so a lot of times, you know, the game is so dark, it's almost funny. Like, that's what is fucking awesome about it. Like, it's just, there is a couple of examples later that are just, they made me laugh, because I'm just like, mate, it just doesn't pull any punches. But you know what I do like about it? It doesn't cross any lines. You can tell it's not trying to be edgy, it's sincere in its darkness. That's just the themes of the game.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome, because that's quite rare. Usually if something's
edgy, you know, for edgy's
sake. Over the top, dark.
Yeah, over the top and a bit try-hard, then there's almost always going to be lines that they cross.
Yeah, and in this, there are a couple of times where you go, ooh, that's a bit, but mostly it's actually all right. But anyway, so the game world, obviously, according to the intro, there's Turgol, the child snatcher, but where is this kid robbery taking place? Well, obviously, the game's world is described in this poetic, abstract way, so I'll interpret it now, but if I get any of it wrong, it's not because I'm stupid, it's because of something else. So, basically, nobody has seen the sun in ages. It's been blocked out, and the older people of the world have become obsessed with rituals and sacrifices. So the younger generation basically have to fend for themselves. And there's these things called doomsayers, and we'll get into actually what these are, but they're predicting terrible misery left, right, and centre, and everything is coming true. All of it. Every single thing that's predicted. So the world is going to shit fast, and either people are too weak to fight back, or they just don't give a shit. And many of them try to make good with the gods before they die, basically. And additionally, this bloke called Anuk Schläger, who's a monk for a religion called the Creton Order, once met a basilisk and wrote down a bunch of prophecies that this basilisk told him. And these prophecies were lost to time, and became the nameless scriptures. Anyway, 300 years later, the tomb of Anuk Schläger got uncovered while some Creton dudes were building a cathedral, and from that point on, every single thing written on his scriptures and scrolls has come true. So it's like a Bible predicting a bunch of things called miseries, and they're all just, everything's coming true. It could be something small, like today your sandwich will be slapped out of your hand, or it could be something massive like everyone with a monobrow is going to die, or whatever. I don't know why those examples I came up with were so weird, but anyway. Fucking awesome. But yeah, so these things called the nameless scriptures. Anyway, the church was still made, but all their holy texts got put in the bin. Everyone just binned it. The Bible's out, every other one is out, right? So, and now all the Creton monks choose to read is the nameless scripture and all of these dooms that are happening. So, and this church also worships two-headed basilisks, with each head representing some different part of their religion. One head, called Verhu, is like the main one, right? And he's able to predict the future. And as such, everyone worships this guy. Which, if you think about it, is a bit out of order, considering the other head is right there watching everyone worship him and give him little gifts. Meanwhile, the other one is just sitting there, bitter, listening to everyone pour over his brother. It's a bit I mean, imagine that. You're just sitting there and everyone's coming in, just giving you little offerings, asking for you to predict their future, things like this. And your brother's like sitting, literally can't move away. And he's like, I may not be able to predict the future, but I've got a lot of really other cool stuff going along. Like he's juggling, like trying to get people's attention.
Want to hear a joke?
Want to hear a joke? No. Is it about the future?
No.
Yes, you liar.
That's it. Take your gifts to my brother, then.
Yeah, that's fine, as you always do. And so the book actually mentions this, right? The other head is called Gorg, and he hates the other head with a passion because Verhu can predict the future and knows the full truth of the world and gets shitloads of gifts from people. And the funny thing about Gorg is he has actually attempted to predict the future many times and failed. So that's the cool thing.
Brilliant.
So he's not only attached to his brother that's consistently more successful than him, he also is worse.
He's a massive failure.
Must be so
Anyway, the other basilisk, right? The other one, who's the other one that's part of this religion, is just often simply referred to as she. And she has the head of denial and the head of deception. And guess what? She gets pimped out by the main one, Verhu.
What?
Yeah, so... And Verhu doesn't even give her proper protection. So she, and this is a bit gross, has given birth like 1 million times, but all of them were stillborn, and she chucks them off a cliff, which is one of the 2 things in the book that actually made me go, ugh.
That's fucking mental, isn't it?
It's a bit gross. But the cool thing about this is there was one surviving spawn of the basilisk, of this lady one, she. Interestingly, the survivor also got chucked off the cliff with the others, right? She probably just didn't know what to look for in an alive baby, you see? Baby basilisk. Mm-hmm. So she punted him off the cliff, and now he lives in a place called the Valley of the Unfortunate Dead, where he yells damnation up to his mum that chucked him off there. I'm sure he just went up and said, you know I'm alive, right? She'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I thought you were... this is awkward.
No, this is awkward. You were just asleep. You said, oh dear. I'm so... You know what? Come in. Let's have a cup of tea.
You've been shouting at me from down there this whole time. Sorry.
I thought I heard something.
When I opened the window.
I thought I was hearing things. And it's just him going, fuck you!
Mum!
But yeah, basilisk family troubles aside though, let's talk about why the world is all fucked up. So again, it's a little abstract, but essentially reality is breaking apart and decaying. Cracks in time are forming, and as such, unfathomable things are entering the world. And the world itself is like folding in on itself, like reality. And And the island that this game takes place on is surrounded by the endless sea, right? So it's just an infinite sea. People have like sailed it, got in boats and shit and tried to search for new lands, but everyone always returns back. It doesn't say how or why, but that's up to the GM, But they always end up back, even if it's against their will, and they'll come back dead or alive. So you could send your old granddad out there on a little raft, and just go, look, you've only got a couple of years left. Try and find us some new land, and he'll come back half an hour later, just a skeleton on a raft. Because they come back either dead or alive, so it could just be, and he's back and he's like, well,
lost my skin.
Lost my skin. You don't want to know what's out there. The skin thief.
Yeah.
So the next part is all about the locations. It's nothing too heavy, right? Just a page or 2 pages per location, often half a page as well, with large art pieces, basically. And I'm not going to go into huge detail here. Reason being is because I really want to run this and don't want to spoil too much. But here's a couple of examples for you. Remember that cathedral we mentioned where the nameless scripture was found? Well, the largest city in the game sprung up around that church, and it's ruled by a priestess called Yasilfa Megal. The cathedral, called the Cathedral of the Two-Headed Basilisks, obviously they don't have much imagination in this religion, houses a subterranean throne room where this woman Jasilfa resides, and she's young and old at the same time, and people think she deals with a dark god called Necrubal, and that she was granted eternal life, basically. And Necrubal, by the way, is rumoured to be the one that grants the prophecies to Verhu, the basilisk, so it's not like he has a power. It's more that a dark god is constantly telling him shit, his plans, maybe. So he's whispering in his ear, and it's fucking cool.
That is cool.
But that's basically all the information on Galgenbeck, which is the biggest city in the game, right?
Okay.
And that's the type of stuff I like to see, because in RPGs, often you have, people over-explaining. There's a million different characters in this rich, highly detailed town, whereas this is a jumping-off point. You see what I mean?
Yeah, it's better.
It's a perfect description of it. It gives you the flavour you want.
And I agree with you, Nick. It is better because, to me, it gives the whole overall flavour of the world. You got a couple of things in there, the main details about the city, and then all you need to know is if you keep consistent with the game's tone and remember that it's the biggest city and it's sprung up around this cathedral.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah, and you can add all your little nuances yourself.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's just perfect to me. I fucking love it. But there's also a dark mirrored version of this temple in a place called Graven Tosk. And there's also the Valley of the Unfortunate Dead, which we mentioned before. Yep. There's a western region called Wasteland and a bunch of other really cool locations. But I don't want to spoil them because they're fucking awesome. But the world information consists of about 5 pages total. It's just a bunch of jumping off points, as I said, and it gives you only the most important pieces of info, leaving the rest up to the GM. And it's just perfect, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine this wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea, right? But it is absolutely my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I tend to use settings as jumping off points anyway. I mean, look at when we played Deadlands, my version of Deadlands is really different, but I like the classes, I like the feel of the world, I like some of the locations, but I don't want to use everything, because then you get bogged down in trying to remember their shit too much.
Exactly.
Do you see what I
mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Completely right.
I like killing things, and I like kicking things in the ass. So if anyone keeps going on about how you can negotiate with the fucking geckos, I'm gonna whoop your ass out of here!
Should we talk about Misery?
What, the film? Please.
Is there a film called Misery?
Not a bad Stephen King book and film.
We can talk about that if you want, Nick.
It's
I mean,
right.
This is an RPG podcast, but I was thinking we're due for an update of subject matter anyway. Okay. We could change to the Misery podcast.
We'll just talk about Misery. Yeah. No, let's leave that. Let's start out on a new one.
Nah, we'll shelve that idea.
Yeah,
we'll shelve that idea.
For now.
Sometimes it just needs a bit of refinement. Maybe we'll talk about Misery and Carrie. Who cares?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So there's basically a section in the game called the Calendar of Necrubal, and it describes miseries. Basically, each dawn, I assume in game and not in real life, the GM rolls a die, and a result of 1 will cause a misery. What die is you determine it as a group. So this basically, if it doesn't really describe this, so this is why I'm sort of stumbling over this, but it doesn't really describe it. It's got like a little table, and it says when will the world end, and it said like basically in a minute you roll a D2, or in a long hectic year you roll a D100, and you wait for that to come up as a 1. I don't know if you change the dice every time you roll it. But I think you decide kind of, is this going to be a long-term game? If so, roll a D20 or a D100. If it's going to be a short-term game, roll a D2, and every time it comes up 1, you get in a misery.
Ah.
But what is a misery? Well, I'm glad I asked. A misery is some unfortunate event that happens in the game world, and they're all taken from the nameless scriptures. And it's actually laid out like a page from that book, like a Bible.
I guess with rolling the torments, it could depend on what's going on in the world as well. I suppose if the whole world's getting a bit chaotic through story play.
That's kind of the way I saw it. Like, I was thinking that maybe if it's been a particularly chaotic session and a lot of real big shit's gone down, maybe you could roll a D6 or a D2, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's up to you, really. I mean, and misery is basically that, some unfortunate event that happens in the game world, and they're all taken from the nameless scriptures. So they're laid out like a page from that book. It looks like a Bible book, and each one says Psalm 1:1 or Psalm 1:4. So if you roll a 1 and a 4 in your dice...
Yeah, that's
fucking cool, man.
Isn't it?
It looks amazing. It literally looks like a Bible page, and each die roll corresponds to a line in that psalm, and then you read that out. For example, here's one: of those who build mightily, stone by stone, so they shall fall mightily. And the cool thing is about that is it could be literal. That people who attempt to build housing start to die in gruesome ways, or it could be that the PC's well-laid plans start to turn against them. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Metaphorically,
it's all open to interpretation, and that is
it's the best.
Amazing.
It's the best. Yeah, I fucking love it. But another example is the lake shall blacken and the water become tar. So, suddenly, their world could be devoid of any drinking water. Or it could be, that a lake specifically turns to tar and things start to climb out of it, But, one final awesome one is he will grow stronger. That's the baby that was chucked off the cliff.
Yep.
And she will be slain.
Ooh.
So he finally gets his revenge and takes over.
Yeah.
Meaning half of the people this religion worships is now dead and replaced with literally their satanic figure. So pretty fucking awesome.
That is cool.
Guess what? After 6 miseries, the 7th one is always the same. It's 7-7. And this is kind of the end of the game, and I won't spoil what happens at 7-7, but the book actually says this: the world finally dies, the game is over, and your lives end here. Burn the book.
That is cool as shit, man.
Oh, mate.
It really is. I don't know about you guys, but when I do run this, I think I might do that just because it's in the rules. I'm like, sorry, mate, it's rules as written. I've got to burn the book.
Yeah, you got to purchase a new one before you burn it, but then you burn it.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely that. Yeah,
yeah, that is
it's
cool.
Like, I've got to complete the ceremony, guys. Come on, let's all go outside to the field.
No, but I was thinking that you're talking about going outside in the field. I'm talking about, let's say we're doing it at either yours or Nick's house.
Yeah.
I'm just going to chuck it on the table and just start pouring petrol on the table.
Yeah. I mean, this game's asking to be played by candlelight, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. It really is. In a graveyard.
Yeah.
In a graveyard with all cloaks on it.
Oh, mate.
Yeah. That would be fucking awesome. Yeah, anyway, the next 2-page spread is about gear and character creation, and we talked about, how the gear's laid out and stuff, but as for, what you start with, everyone starts with a bunch of silver, a water skin, and D4 days worth of food, and some random gear. So basically, you roll on 3 tables and see what you get. You could start with a donkey, a needle, and a bit of lard.
Nice.
Or a sack, a silver crucifix, and D4 monkeys.
Oh, D4 monkeys, good.
Or what about a backpack, a random unclean scroll, and a heavy chain? These are all things you could possibly roll. And we'll get into scrolls in a minute. There's basically the spells in the game. But the character creation process is super easy. You roll your starting equipment, roll for weapons and armor, roll your abilities, and then it says name your character if you wish. It will not save you.
Oh, I love it. It's so good.
The abilities in this game are basically your stats. So there's only 4. You have agility, which is used for defense, swimming and legging it, and presence, which is used for perceiving, charming, and spells, and also ranged attacks, and strength, which is obvious. And you also have toughness, which is your ability to resist bad shit like poison, weather, falling from height. So
just constitution, isn't it? Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome. And to roll up these stats, you roll on a table, and you get a score which varies from a -3 up to a +3, and you add these to a D20 and beat a difficulty number. It's familiar to anyone that knows D20 systems, basically. But yeah, hit points are your toughness score plus D8, and combat is like wicked easy, right? So you roll a D6, and on a 1 to 3, enemies go first, and on a 4 to a 6, players do. You have to hit a DC 12 check to hit anything. Always DC 12. It could be modified by something, but it's always DC 12. So if an NPC wants to hit you, you instead roll agility to defend. That's it. Combat is player facing, basically.
Nice.
Okay.
Armor takes off points of damage, and some of them can actually modify your defense rolls too. So if you crit on a defense roll, you get a free attack on them, which is awesome.
That's nice.
And
That's cool.
Yeah, and if you hit 0 HP, you are broken, and you roll on a table where you could start hemorrhaging blood, lose a limb, or lose an eye. But if you hit negative HP, you just die, and that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
That's quite cool.
Funny enough, combat is summarised and hit point rolling. There's a page where you see where your hit points, how to roll hit points, and it's just a picture of a real heart.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, nice.
Pretty grim. And then on the other side is all the combat. So the combat is summarised in 2 pages. That's it.
Nice.
But that's all you need.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's all you bloody need.
It's fucking awesome. But yeah, then we come into a bunch of optional rules and classes, actually, which I haven't mentioned yet, because classes are optional. You don't have to take one. You could just be a nobody if you wanted to.
Wicked.
But yeah, they're also completely optional. But we'll talk about classes. But before we talk about classes, I want to talk about the little tools, the little optional rules and things like this.
Cool.
And there's one optional thing called omens. This is basically like your bennies, right? You have D2 of these every in-game day, and once they're depleted, you rest, you get D2 more, or whatever die your class uses for omens, because some of them get more. And these can be used to re-roll any roll, including someone else's. So if the GM does a roll you don't like, re-roll them. If your mate, you want to screw with him, re-roll his. You can lower damage dealt to you. You can deal max damage on an attack, neutralise a crit, or make tasks easier.
Neutralise a crit.
Yeah, so basically, if you do a crit fail, use an omen, it becomes a regular fail. If somebody crits you, use an omen, it becomes a regular hit.
Yeah, I like that one.
Pretty awesome. Really nice. It's just so clever. You also have a load of tables like terrible traits, where you can roll up hindrances like problems with authority, nihilistic, or prone to substance abuse is another one. Yeah.
Nice.
There's one table. This is kind of weird. Yeah, wasteful is a pretty good one. So because in this world, it's all about scarcity, and you're just this guy that's like chucking all your beef jerky into a lake or something. There's one weird table as well, which is a table of different states you'll find a body in. So it'd be like, this one's eyes have been gouged out and it's been kicked up the bottom or whatever.
Nice.
There's also a table of bad habits, and the best of all though is the troubling tales, right? This is your backstories, and it says roll a d20 or throw a knife at the page to determine backstory.
Oh my god.
Yes.
But yeah, it's cool, man. And the backstories can be determined. It can be for you or your entire group as well, which is fucking cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
And Nick, I think you'll like this because you enjoy playing a magic user. And there's a table of arcane catastrophes. They're basically spell fumble effects.
Yes.
And the title of the table, right, is written in such a weird way, right? It's difficult to read, and then the book chastises you for reading it wrong to begin with. So you're sort of reading it, and it's really difficult, and then it goes, "You read it wrong the first time, you bitch," or something like this.
I love it.
But yeah, the fumble effects are amazing, man. So basically, you have an immediate effect by one, and then another that the caster doesn't immediately realise. So, for example, you might roll on this table, and now your skin emits a pale green light. But when you immediately don't know, and that's going to be difficult for everyone to figure out, is that you make everyone around you really ill, and their teeth fall out, their bones become brittle, they start to lose HP.
That's so wicked.
That's wow.
And the thing is, so the DM... It's brutal. So the DM, Nick, you go to cast a spell, and the DM just says to you, and you've now got green skin, you'll be like, alright, cool, I guess sneaking's off the menu. Then, the next session, he starts going on about everyone's teeth is falling out, and they can't figure it out because they don't know that that's necessarily linked to you because it wasn't said explicitly.
So good. They go to open a door and their arm just breaks off.
Yeah. They go, I love that. Yeah, it's just like, all right, I got this, and then suddenly your arm breaks off. Somebody else tries to get the arm off the door. Theirs breaks off on the end of that one, and suddenly you've got an arm conga going on.
Yeah, I just love the name Arcane Catastrophe. That's such a cool name.
It is awesome, yeah. It's really cool, but there's a bunch of useful things like these tables, but we could be here all day if I go on about it. So let's talk classes. These are optional, but they are fucking awesome, right? For example, there's Fanged Deserter. Fanged Deserter, that's difficult to say. These are humanoid monsters with huge fangs, and they start with a bite attack. And what's interesting is the way that the Fanged Deserter is described. It's like you walk alone, but you've always had 30 or so friends. They're your teeth. And it's like, it's really funny. But
yeah, nice.
They start with higher strength and start with one random bonus, as do all the classes. But my favourite one, and this is the bit that made me laugh, because it's like so dark it's funny. There's a sword, it's a stinking sword that you pulled from what the book actually calls a shit ditch. And this sword basically gives people diseases. Diseases are all done with one mechanic in this, so it's called, like, I can't remember, intoxication or something like this. So if you stab somebody with this sword, every time they rest, instead of healing D6 HP, you get hurt D6 HP.
Ooh.
And that's a mechanic in the game. So every time you're infected, that's what happens. And this sword basically infects people just by stabbing them because you pulled it from a shit ditch and never thought to clean it.
That's so gross.
One of the other things for the Fanged Deserter, one of the other random things you might roll is a bag of wizard teeth. Before every battle, you jumble them around in your hands, and basically you just roll a bunch of dice that are the wizard's teeth, and then for every 6 you get to do max damage on that number of successful attacks during the combat.
Lovely.
Fucking cool, man.
Oh,
yeah,
wicked.
That's cool.
Yeah, and the classes basically all work this way. Bonuses on certain abilities, detriments to others, then a cool thing they start with. And the next class is Gutterborn Scum.
Yes.
Which is pretty self-explanatory, but these are basically like rogues. So they could start with something called Coward's Jab, where they do more damage with a light weapon or a dagger, like a dagger from surprise, or Filthy Fingersmith, where you begin with lockpicks and can easily pickpocket people. Or the ability to hide in mud or sludge. The cool thing is that this isn't anything necessarily that new to the rogue, but it recontextualizes it as being a cowardly, like, gutter snipe, literally. In a lot of cases. You're literally sniping people from the gutter.
Stabbing them in the back from a shit ditch.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah, you're in the shit ditch. You were next to the sword. That's how you met.
Yeah, exactly. I like it. It's very cool.
Very, very cool. And other classes include the Esoteric Hermit, who are cave dwellers, Occult Herb Masters, which are basically weed potion guys. Or there's Wretched Royalty, so you're like just a horrible noble.
Yeah.
And all the classes are freaking awesome, and they're all dripping with misery. Like, you can probably imagine, the piece of artwork for Wretched Royalty is a guy sitting on a throne looking like he hates life,
Yes. That's wicked. You're right. It's just like, normal classes, but it's just the way they're kind of packaged in this. It just makes it really, you can really feel it.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's also the little abilities that you get, they really add that little bit of flavour in there.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
I rolled up a character for this game and started with a Fanged Deserter who had a talking... I don't even think it was talking. He had a skull that was his best mate that he talked to and told his every secret.
Love it.
And also had prone to substance abuse and things like this. And it was just like, I got this cool rounded character, and that's cool actually. On their MÖRK BORG website, they've got this character generator, and it just, because you can roll randomly for everything. You can choose stuff, but you can roll randomly for everything. You can roll up a character just by clicking a button on there. So if your character dies, get your phone out, and you've got a new one there straight away.
That's banging.
That is really cool.
Let's talk about powers, shall we? These are basically spells in MÖRK BORG, and they come on scrolls, and any character can get them at character creation because you can roll on the gear table and get one. But some classes, such as the Esoteric Hermit, also get them as a random starting bonus. So there's 2 types of scroll, unclean and sacred, right? So it's kind of like good and bad ones, but they're both kind of a bit shitty, basically, but it's just the sacred ones are more linked to the horrible basilisks that run the world. They're kind of like more things that people would find acceptable, and some are ones that people wouldn't find acceptable. It doesn't mean either of them are good or should be used. But every morning you roll presence plus d4 to determine how many spells you can use for that day, and you can use any that you have in your possession a number of times up to that amount. So to use a spell, you have to beat a 12 on a presence roll, and if you fail, you become dizzy for an hour, take d2 damage, and can't cast spells for that entire hour. Otherwise, they fail. You literally count as a crit fail for that whole hour if you try and use them. So I don't think this is a rule you should tell your players, because when they try to use one while dizzy, they're like, oh, I've got to use it, and then it just blows up in their face. It'll be a good learning experience of it.
Yeah, exactly. Very good.
If you crit or fumble, the GM decides the effect of the spell. They can make it up. It can be appropriate, it can be whatever, but the Arcane Catastrophes table can also be used as an optional thing.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at some of the unclean scrolls, you basically have things like death, where creatures around you for 30 feet each take 4d10 damage, or Masutel's Blind Your Eye. Masutel Blind Your Eye, I think it's called. It's basically invisibility.
Yep.
Or Foul Psychopomp, which you use to summon undead.
Nice.
Sacred scrolls include things like Grace of a Dead Saint, which is a healing spell, or Enochian Syntax, where a single creature blindly follows a single command.
Ooh.
That's the thing, isn't it? If you look at all these old D&D things, the amount of description that goes into a command spell, simply because players are going to use it to do terrible things. But yeah, in this, if you've got bloody Enochian Syntax, you tell the king or someone really important to just go, right, kill yourself. He'll do it. He'll just do it.
Nice.
Really fucking
mental.
Cool.
Yep.
There's one I really like, is that it's so cheesy, but it's called Whispers Past the Gate. And it's just talk with the dead, but I just love the name.
Yeah, that is cool.
Oh, that's cool. The use of the names
languages,
they're all poetic, aren't they?
Reminds me of like Dark Souls, and it's like so dark. But yeah, and the cool thing is as well, all the spells, and this is good for all the spellcasters out there, they fit on a single page, and each one, its description is a single sentence long. So no bullshit, it's just so easy.
Yeah.
I just love it, man. But we're nearly done here, and we'll kind of discuss the book together at the end. But let's wrap this up with a few monsters.
Yes.
So some of them are described, but some are given a whole page picture, and as a result, your description is left up to the GM.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, there's Aland, the wick-head knife wielder, who has a wicker cage over his head, like in The Wicker Man.
Yeah.
And he's silent as a grave, so he's just completely silent constantly. He sneaks up on his victims and stabs them with a knife that has a 25% chance to infect the wound. So you'll get the same infection as the shit sword.
Nasty.
Ooh.
Now this is the second one that actually made me cringe and made me feel really nasty inside. Is an undead doll called Lady Porcelain. And these are real human children who are placed inside porcelain dolls and left to die, which is horrible and grim. But many of them return as the undead. So imagine that. Imagine how fucking horrible that would be. It's disgusting.
And the image that they use on that page
is so
creepy as fuck. It's because it's all whited out.
Yeah, it's like a creepy doll's, like porcelain doll's face with cracks in it.
It's do you know what I'm getting images of right now? You've got like Aland, the Wickerhead knife wielder. Like, you wouldn't be surprised from going through these type of creatures if you just saw Pyramid Head from Silent Hill. Do you know what I mean? Like, it would fit perfectly with that kind of feel.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I was reading this. Like, it's that type of nightmarish type monster.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
It really is. But guess what? The only reason, right, these little children are put into the dolls is to punish the parents if they've committed some sort of crime. How fucked up is that?
Oh, mate. That is so brutal.
Yes. Anyway, I'll give you two more monsters. There's one called Belize, who's a blood-drenched skeleton. But basically, it's just a skinless undead, right? And it just drips with blood constantly. And it mimics voices to lure in its victims, then stabs them. There's also one called Thinks, who's a gargoyle that moves only when you look away, and when it reaches you, it always hits. No roll, it just hits.
Wow.
And also, every round of combat, it has eye beams, and you roll a d4, and on a 1 or a 2, it uses the eye beams, which also always hit.
Nasty.
Prices are actually included for selling a lot of these creatures too, with different prices for dead or alive ones, which is fucking cool.
Ooh, that's cool.
And that's MÖRK BORG. The final part is an adventure called Rot Black Sludge, which is really, really good. And the cool thing about it is that the adventure, I won't spoil what it's about, the cool thing about it is on every page, as you go through it, if it's describing a room, it will show a mini version of the map and where it is on the map, so you don't have to keep flipping back.
That's
and
nice.
Each room is described by bullet points and just says what's in them. That's it. It's no flowery language. It's just you could just read the bullet points and come up with your own description.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yes.
But
that's all you want. That's all you need. You don't need all this dark and dank. It's just like, well, I'm going to explain it like that anyway. Or in actual fact, it's just going to be slightly mossy, and that's what I choose it to be. But all you need to know is the contents, don't you?
Yeah, and put it this way. The only time I actually read the flavour text is when we're doing our actual plays. And that's different because there's only 2 of you there. We get a lot done in those. And the language in the DCC books is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But all it does is it serves to slow down a game. If you're reading from the book, it serves to slow down the game. And nowadays, I just summarise it in bullet points in my notebook anyway.
Yeah.
So I love it. All right, but we'll go around the room here. We did this segment to figure out if MÖRK BORG lives up to the hype. And Nick, what do you think?
Yes, in a word. Yeah, it's cracking. I mean, it's right up our alley straight away. It's definitely something that I think that we'd enjoy. But I just love. I feel what you mean with the. It's not being dark for darkness's sake. It's actually having a really good stab at just getting under your skin. I like the kind of abandonment and despair. Why even bother naming your character? It won't make a difference. Just little lines like that really kind of drive it home. I feel it. I can feel. I mean, just from hearing this review, I can feel the darkness. It's almost like this room's got a bit darker.
Right. Yeah. Totally. And you know what? Like I said, and you said, it's about the sincerity.
Yes.
I mean, as much as I love Lamentations of the Flame Princess, it is they do such good products for that game, and they are good. But sometimes, James Raggy, he's into his black metal and stuff, but the thing is, what he often makes, it doesn't actually have the tone of a black metal album or a doom metal album. What it really has is a tone of a fantasy thing trying to be edgy sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a bit try hard.
Yeah, and there are some adventures like Death Frost Doom, which is one of the greatest adventures ever made, but where it's like that is pure black metal. That is, but and MÖRK BORG succeeds with that in its rules as well as its products. So that's why I think it's so fucking good. But James, how about you? What do you think? You like does it live up to the hype?
Yeah, totally. I was just like, before I sort of looked into it, and then like on our little chat, you were like, oh, yeah, it's been reviewed by The Guardian and all that shit, and I was just like, oh my god, it's just like some mainstream. It's just going to be a mainstream piece of shit. Basically, and then after like looking through the PDF and then listening and discussing this whole review, it's just like, nah, this is actually badass, and you can see that the reason it's made it to paper is because like it is actually, the hype is real, and it's so dark, dingy, and awesome, and like Nick was saying, and it's definitely, as our group goes, it's up our street.
I think so.
Like massively.
Totally.
We are going to definitely play this. I can see that. That's
100%.
A fact.
It's fucking
this
awesome.
This is like overtaken some people's campaigns, I reckon. It's just like, no, this will be next.
I did immediately think of right, I'm going to abandon the campaign we're currently running and play this. But no.
Let's play this. I'd be curious to know how quite hardened Warhammer fans make of this, what they make of this. I think this might be up their street as well.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I completely agree, because Warhammer always had a very dark tone to it. Not quite this dark, but definitely. Maybe we could recommend it to Warhammer fans, but I pretty much recommend it to anyone in RPGs. Yeah. And to me, this is a masterclass in how to make a product, and I'm hoping it will be a revolutionary product, because I think I would love to see more things go this way, even if it's not this dark. The simplicity and the genius of design that kept it simple with enough character options, that kept the actual setting simple and decent and easy to use. It's just fucking genius. And it's like the thing is, every single aspect of it is just fucking awesome. One of the things I didn't mention is there's no how to play an RPG section. Instead, or like, what is an RPG? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just it assumes you have some literacy with it, because let's be honest, who's starting with MÖRK BORG? I mean, it's probably not going to happen. But the thing is that it'll just say, for example, when the game starts, it'll just say tests D20. Hit difficulty check to succeed. That's it. Doesn't no bullshit. No, I don't know. But it's just fucking awesome. But I've got to be honest with you guys. I do have to go somewhere very soon, so we're gonna have to move on to the next segment.
No, that's fine. One more thing before I go. Yeah, all by MÖRK BORG, and also the yellow and black cover they absolutely look great as a colour match, color code for this whole product. The black writing with the yellow is genius.
It is genius, and it makes it stand out on a shelf of otherwise dingy and dark books.
Really
which is kind of weird when you think about it.
Yeah, it's true.
Bye, everyone. Electro letters.
In the future, you will be able to send a letter or parcel from anywhere on the planet. This, sir, is the electro letter.
Okay, so this is electro letters. Basically, what you no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so this is electro letters, right? And what we asked you guys for this week was your greatest RPG achievements of all time. I like the first one, Michael Markey, which is is he from the Funky Bunch?
I was about to say he needs to be in a rap group, doesn't he?
Yep. Michael Markey. I nearly said something really terrible just then. I'll tell you after the recording. Okay, so he says, killing a man with a knock spell. We were in space at the time, wearing helmets, fully locked into our suits. So yeah, for those that don't know, a knock spell unlocks a door. So he just unlocked this bloke's suit, I guess.
Wow.
That's fucking cool.
That is cool.
This one's actually probably my favourite one. It's Robert Woford. He says, we actually played a 4-hour session with almost no diverting to out-of-game stuff.
That's an achievement.
I don't think it can't be true. I think that's a lie.
yeah. I'll believe it when I see it.
I mean, so next one comes from Timothy Peer. He says, I once strangled a dragon into unconsciousness in AD&D 2nd edition. My character died in the encounter, but he took the dragon out with him.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Do you know a weird thing, actually, you two, is that I actually did this once. It was one of the games that we played at work. No, it wasn't me. It was a friend of mine, but I was there. I witnessed it happen.
Yeah.
And I saw somebody strangle a dragon to death with a thong he'd nicked off a hooker.
Oh, wow.
What a way to go.
Yeah. Funny thing is, you both know the person as well, so...
yeah, I bet I do.
Yeah, I'm thinking you know who it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Terry Hansen, he says, getting a game going and having it last longer than 2 months.
Oh, tell.
Oh, man.
Oh, that makes me feel sad.
Yeah, that does make me feel sad.
It was like 2 months and 1 day.
Yeah. 2 days spanned
a lot
across over 2 months.
A lot of people do have trouble, keeping a game group together. We're super lucky. I like it when people come out with, like, I had a game last for 4 sessions once, and we're like, try 5 years, mate.
5.5 years, still going strong.
Still going.
To be fair, it's not been the same game for 5 years.
Oh, no.
Although that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool too, but...
There's a woman...
We are lucky.
We like trying out different stuff, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that.
There's a woman who owns our friendly local game store who has run the same Deadlands campaign for 15 years. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Jesus fuck.
Jeez.
Yeah. Apparently, as characters get to legendary, they kind of retire, and they have like... Yeah, so it's technically the same campaign, but it's a different story, new characters, all of this stuff. So
that is cool.
And speaking of Deadlands, Owen Lean, he says his greatest gaming achievement is running a Savage Worlds LARP for 3 years without making my wife want to kill me. And that is cool, but what I thought immediately was that she did want to kill you, mate, but she just didn't say.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee, every time he's having to put his leather chaps on and go down the pub to pretend to be, a Western wizard, his wife's like, oh, fuck it now.
Fuck's sake, I went
for fucking hell, I went. He's got his chaps on again.
He just dips his hat and then spins his gun.
He's like, I'm going out to LARP. I'll see you in the morning. And she's like, oh god, my husband is the lamest. He's got one of those little guns with a little orange thing on the end. Not to say LARPs are lamers, this is a safe space. LARPers, you're alright, but you are weird, let's be honest. Stephen Keith, he says, overcoming insanity. In Rifts, my shape-shifting techno wizard from another dimension, Cosmo Diode, who looked like Harrison Ford, finally got over his specific randomly rolled insanity, fear of success. The result of a critically failed horror check at the site of a gigantic cybernetic brain. The symptoms, huge penalties to almost all skill checks and combat rolls, but only when success matters the most. Cosmo could be doing just fine, but he found some way of sabotaging himself in the most crucial moment.
Oh no.
It was really awful but fun to roleplay. The cure... design and build a techno-wizard device that allowed these benevolent ghostly entities key success to the living machines from Robotech. This is going way over my head, I've got to be honest with you. Ironically, As a trade for delivering the device to our new trans-dimensional friends, it was actually a giant squishy brain encased in a mech suit who physically reached into my mind and erased the fear. Okay, so I'm back on track now.
Yeah.
Funny thing was, my character's insanity kind of started fucking me up in real life. So I was pretty stoked to finally be cured. And our GM said it just wound up shaking out the way story-wise with its being a second giant brain to undo the curse. That kind of makes sense. Love the podcast, guys. Very inspiring. Cheers. To summarise that, basically, his brain got all fucked up and another brain helped him.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad.
I mean, I don't know why being a complete failure for ages is your best gaming achievement, but still, I mean, it's good that when you come out of an insanity, I mean, most people in the Call of Cthulhu games that we run, they die or go completely insane before they even get a chance to redeem themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So that is an achievement. I do get that. But well Rifts, man, it just sounds like it's so kitchen sinky, man. It's like fucking everything's in it, and I'm just... Yeah. Just too much, Just like my shape-shifting black lesbian skeleton from another dimension who is also a president of the United States with a joint-smoking dog called Kermit.
He's also touring a revivalist rock band.
It's like, okay, cool, mate. Let's just play something else. We got a couple of general questions. Henrik Erlandson, he says, is it my brain that plays me a trick, or did you do an episode on the Matt Mercer effect? We did, right? But a lot of people were very upset with our guest, even though we didn't speak about anything particularly political on that. A lot of people got upset about the guest. A lot of complaints happened. The episode got taken down. Sorry. He did ask if we'd upload it anywhere again, but probably not. We sort of learnt our lesson there that controversial guests might end up being controversial. I actually thought they both seemed quite nice, but the thing is that I learned do my research beforehand, and also I'm sorry about that episode being down, but it is. Shut up. You know, we've got a £10,000 Patreon tier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Well, Ace B, he comes in, he says, legitimately, what would you spend 10 grand on if it had to be spent on RPG related stuff? He says he'd think he'd chuck a few grand on a big marble gaming table. And I just imagine that in my front room.
Just that.
Imagine that. I've got all IKEA furniture and, normal ass stuff, and then like a really exquisite marble table that takes up the whole room, sitting in the middle of it.
Yeah, handcrafted and everything.
No, you get one of those massive tables that has that central reservation that sinks down, so you can put like a massive model of something and then click a button and it slowly rises to reveal itself to the players at the table.
Okay, I mean, that would be cool, but it wouldn't fit in my house. This is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I've got the answer to the question.
He said legitimately, so Nick, you.
I've got the answer to the question, and it would be the same problem with me. So I would use the 10 grand to put it towards a deposit to buy a bigger house to be able to game in a larger space.
I feel like you've cheated.
Yeah.
Okay, alright. No, but it has to be RPG related stuff.
No, I'm joking.
The house isn't specifically RPG related.
10 grand, I would 100% buy one of them off the hook tables. You know, the ones that are all wooden. They've got the magnetic hand cup holders. They've got they've got everything. They're a lot of dough. I'd buy one of them.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then I'd build in I love the electronic table as well for when you can have maps on a screen. So I'd have a custom built table basically with a screen built into it and everything. Yeah, I'll probably just blow 10 grand on a really good gaming table that just caters for everything.
I thought the exact same thing, and I'll probably do the exact same fucking thing. But what I would also do is I'd probably buy one of those 400 quid wooden DM screens. I know I've got one that I made myself, but the thing is that it's not quite as nice as those ones, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I'll get the table.
I'd like
and then if there's any money left over, Nick, I would give it to charity, because that's how nice I am.
Oh, do you know what I was going to say?
RPG charity.
I would buy that fucking Monty Cook game that's like 300 quid just to have a look at it.
The one that's $200 and doesn't even come with everything you need.
Yeah. You'd be able to afford it all.
You know what you could do 10 grand is buy 5 copies, so we've all got one, and the table's just crowded with just utter crap all over the place. Metal hands that holds a card, all of these fucking GM screens, 800 fucking cards.
There you go.
I bet it's actually quite good though. That's the most annoying thing about it.
I bet it is. One day we'll get it.
James, you've got 10 grand, and I think Ace B, he's trying to see what we would spend it on so he can give us the fucking money. So James, what are you going to spend it on?
Yeah, well, definitely he's going to be on them TV tables. Like, that's a fact. It'll do that. But I'd also, if possible, I'll make it touchscreen so every player can interact with it.
Ooh. You know, we spoke actually a little while ago about the Ultimate Horror game and having somebody dressed as the monster burst in like an actor that you've paid.
Yes.
I think I would definitely run a one shot of Call of Cthulhu. I wouldn't tell anyone that that's what's going to happen, and then suddenly halfway through, this guy in like a fucking deep one mask
imagine
leaps in, smashes the table in.
blowing 10 grand on like special effects for a one shot.
Yeah, fireworks, fucking a bloke coming in on a suit. Yeah, it would be like, and maybe like I would have NPCs die. I'd have like, blood packs beneath my shirt
everywhere.
It would be the most bombastic game.
Trained
ever.
ravens to fly through the window like whenever they're needed.
Yeah. Oh man, that'd be good. You seen the film Game Night?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, basically that. It'll be that.
Exactly.
I mean. All right, let's do an outro, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't want to catch him in bed with a goblin. But if he's in there rolling around hacking him up and he's got a goblin guide, taking him into the cave, I'm not expecting him to not get dirty.
All right. Now, look, we've got products out there, 3T RPG Publishing on Drive-Thru RPG. Buy one of those if you fancy, because this way you can leave us a tip and you can also support the show as well at the same time, and you also get something. Ooh. So that'd be cool if you could do that. I would be very, very much like that. And of course you can contact us at 3trpgpod@gmail.com, or if you want to donate to us regularly, you can go to our Patreon. Before we go, though, I would just like to get mildly somber for a minute. And I know I've kept it together throughout this podcast, but unfortunately, my really great cat, Millie, died yesterday, and I'm dedicating this episode to her. Simply, I mean, she's not RPG related, but let's put it this way. She would always really, really liked our gaming group, and it's really sad that she's gone. So goodbye, Millie the cat. And as I said on my Facebook, she's gone to Cat Valhalla. She'll be honoured there. So.
Yeah, she will be
she'll
honoured.
Be feasting.
Yeah, exactly. She'll have like infinite cat food. Although, to be fair, she didn't really have much of an appetite anyway. But yeah, anyway, goodbye, Millie the cat, and thank you for everything.
Yeah, you were amazing, Millie.
Short steps, deep breath, everything is alright. Chin up, I can't step into the spotlight. She said, I'm sad, somehow without any words. I just stood there, searching for an answer. When this world is no more, the moon is all we'll see. I'll ask you to fly away with me until the stars all fall down. They empty from the sky, but I don't mind if you're